Hi, I'm Tom Newstrom from the MN Fishing Pros Guide Service, and I'm up here on Sand Lake at Lakewood Lodge, which is one of the premier walleye lakes in the state of Minnesota. I'm going to show you a few things that we do as guides and what we fish with up here to not only have more success for our customers, but also to give tips to them on what they can use when they come up to have a successful trip up at Lakewood Lodge and Sand Lake. You know, a lot of times color is a real important thing, and especially when the water's got a little bit of color to it, just a little kind of, how would you say, a little turbidity to it. And one of the things is we like oranges and greens and chartreuse, something that shows up really well. One of the things we do early in the summer too is we like to use smaller jigs with a little color, and we use a half a night crawler. And I'm just showing you a plastic bait that works real good in the weeds too, but half a night crawler is all you need. You don't need a full crawler. And a leech or even a small chub works real good. And then you can double up and catch walleyes, crappies, perch, and have a great time. You know, one of the other things that we do too is sometimes we add a little bit of sound with a spinner, like this Northland Whistler jig. It works really well. And, you know, again, when the water's a little dirtier, sometimes it just kind of triggers a couple different strikes, and it makes it a lot better presentation. There's different things like the thumper jig. Is another good option too, with a little spinner on the bottom. But as you see, we've got a lot of jigs here with different kind of color, and with the color it really makes a difference. And I can tell you right now, through experience and over 30 years of guiding, that these are the baits, the go-to baits for Sand Lake, and these are the ones that Lakewood Lodge tells their customers to use. These are what we do when we're guiding. So, a little tip on how to fish a jig: you just fish it really slow. And what you have to do is you have to raise the rod up and down, and after you make your cast especially, and just kind of work it off the edge of the weeds or the rocks, and it makes a real big difference. Don't want to work it too fast. You just want to be kind of methodical. Pick a cadence. You know, by cadence I mean just pick a way that these jigs can work really slow along the bottom, and when you get that cadence down and that action down, it really works well, and that's significant when you're going to try to be successful. So again, you know, when you're working a jig, make sure you work it slow, but make sure that you work it in the right places. Color, sound, all makes a difference. And if you want good success up on Sand Lake, these are some tips that'll work for you, because they work for me. You know, when we cast the jig out, what we like it to do is hit the bottom, tighten up the slack in the line, and then we start just kind of moving the rod back and forth, just jigging it, pumping the rod a little bit, and making that bait kind of go along the bottom, and crawling and creeping along. And that's the kind of neat thing about jig fishing, is you're putting the action into it. Now if it's real windy or something, you might want to get a little heavier jig. You might want to start out with a 1/16 if it's real shallow, or an 1/8 ounce. But as the wind picks up and you've got waves, you might have to go to a 1/4 ounce jig, because you want to make sure that you feel exactly what's going on in the bottom. That rod is just an extension of your arm. And one of the things about jig fishing is, as I repeated before, cadence is a real important thing, and getting the action of the jig down is real important also. So again, when you make a cast, you get the jig out in the water, and when it hits the bottom, you want to start moving the rod up and down, jigging it back to the boat, putting a different kind of action into it, and make sure that that jig is just kind of hopping and crawling along the bottom, kind of stair step off a break. And it really works really well, and it's worked for us for a long time.